The first words I heard when I walked into my own home after 3 weeks away weren't "welcome back" or "we missed you." They were screamed from my bedroom by my daughter-in-law, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "What is that old woman doing here? Get out of my house." I stood in my own doorway, my travel bag still on my shoulder, staring at Julia Bennett Hartford as she pointed one perfectly manicured finger at me like I was an intruder, like I was the one who didn't belong. She was sitting on my bed, the one my husband died in 20 years ago, the one I've made every single morning for the past 2 decades, and my son Alex. He just stood there in the hallway staring at his shoes like a guilty child. That was the moment I knew everything had changed. That was the moment I decided to take back what was mine. But to understand how I got there, you need to know who I am. My name is Gabriella Hartford, and I am 74 years old. That number used to scare me. Now it's a badge of honor. Because every single one of those 74 years I survived. I worked, I sacrificed, and I built something that no one could take away from me. Or so I thought. Let me take you back 30 years. I was 44 years old on my knees in a stranger's kitchen, scrubbing their marble floors until my hands bled. The woman who owned the house walked past me that day wearing shoes that probably cost more than I made in a month. She didn't look at me, didn't say thank you, didn't even acknowledge I was human. I was invisible to her. I remember finishing that floor, my knees screaming with pain, my back crying out for rest. I remember sitting in my beat-up Honda Civic in their circular driveway, counting the $45 in cash she'd left on the counter. No note, no kindness, just money. I sat there and did the math in my head like I did every single day. $45, minus 10 for gas to get there and back, minus 5 for the lunch I'd packed from home. That left $30. $30 toward my dream. The dream of owning my own home. You see, I grew up in a family where we never owned anything. We rented, we borrowed, we made do. My parents worked 3 jobs between them and still barely scraped by. When my father died, my mother lost the apartment we'd lived in for 15 years because it was in his name only. She had nothing, no security, no safety net. I watched her beg family members for a place to stay. I watched her pride crumble. I made myself a promise that day. I would never ever be at someone else's mercy. I would own something. Something that was mine, where no one could tell me to leave, where no one could take away my security. So I worked. God, how I worked. I cleaned houses 6 days a week. I took in ironing on Sundays. I sewed alterations for a dry cleaner at night. For years, I wore the same 3 outfits, rotated weekly. I cut my own hair. I walked everywhere to save on gas. Every penny, every dime, every dollar went into a savings account at First National Bank. My husband Thomas worked construction. He was a good man, a quiet man. He understood my dream because it was his, too. We lived in a tiny apartment for 17 years, saving every cent we could. And then 22 years ago, we did it. We bought the house. I remember the day we signed the papers. I was 52 years old. The realtor handed me the keys, and I stood there in the empty living room and cried. Thomas held me, and we just stood there in our house, our sanctuary. Our proof that we had made it. It's a small house. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that's seen better days, and a living room with hardwood floors I polished myself. There's a small backyard where I planted hydrangeas, beautiful blue and purple blooms that reminded me of my grandmother's garden. But to me, it was a palace. Thomas died just 2 years after we bought it. Heart attack. Sudden. Brutal. He was fixing the fence in the backyard one Saturday morning, and then he was gone. I found him there lying in the grass near my hydrangeas. After he died, people told me to sell the house. It's too much for you alone, Gabriella, they said. Move into something smaller. Move into senior living. Let it go. But I couldn't. This house was my promise kept. It was every hour I'd spent on my knees scrubbing someone else's floors. It was every meal I'd skipped so we could save an extra $20. It was Thomas's sweat and blood in the fence posts and the repaired roof. This house was my dignity, so I stayed. For 20 years I've lived here alone. I've kept it clean, kept it beautiful, kept it mine. I wake up at 5 every morning even though I don't have to anymore. Old habits. I make coffee in the same pot Thomas bought me for our 15th anniversary. I water my hydrangeas. I sweep the patio. I read the newspaper at my kitchen table, sitting in the same chair I've sat in for 2 decades. My life is simple, quiet, peaceful. Or it was. My son Alex grew up in this house. Well, for 2 years before his father died. He was 40 now, married to Julia for 5 years. They lived across town in a rented apartment. I didn't see them much. Maybe once a month if I was lucky. Usually it was just a quick phone call. "Hey, Mom, how are you?" "Yeah, work's busy. Julia says hi. We'll come visit soon. Love you, bye." The calls got shorter every year. I tried not to feel hurt. I told myself that's just how it is with adult children. They have their own lives, their own priorities. I raised him to be independent, didn't I? I should be proud he doesn't need me. But late at night, sitting alone in my quiet house, I'd wonder if I'd done something wrong, if I'd been a bad mother, if he'd forgotten all the sacrifices I'd made. I'd think about the nights I stayed up sewing until 2 a.m. so he could have new pants for school. The times I told him I wasn't hungry, so there'd be enough food for him. The way I worked double shifts to pay for his college textbooks. Did he remember any of that? I had a friend, though. A real friend. Rosemary Patterson Rose, I called her. She lived 3 houses down, a 73-year-old widow like me. But Rose had something I didn't: children who loved her openly and often. Her daughter Emma came by twice a week with groceries. Her son David called every Sunday morning without fail. They took her to doctor's appointments, invited her to family dinners, included her in their lives. I wasn't jealous. Jealousy is too ugly an emotion, and I'd worked too hard on my peace to let it in. But I was wistful. Rose and I had tea together every Tuesday afternoon. She'd come over and we'd sit in my kitchen with the window open, drinking chamomile tea and talking about everything and nothing. "How's Alex?" She'd always ask, her kind eyes searching my face. "He's good," I'd say. "Busy with work." Rose would pause, her cup halfway to her lips. "When did you last see him?" "Oh, you know, a few weeks ago." It was usually months, but I didn't want to say that out loud. Rose never pushed. She'd just squeeze my hand and change the subject. That's what I loved about her. She knew when to let things be. 3 weeks ago, my life was this simple, quiet, lonely perhaps, but mine. And then my sis, the phone rang at 6:47 in the morning. I remember because I was in the middle of watering my hydrangeas and the early sun was just starting to warm the backyard. I almost didn't answer. Morning calls are never good news. "Gabriella," my sister's voice was weak, barely a whisper. "Josephine, what's wrong?" I need help. I can't get out of bed." My sister lived in Oregon, 2 states away. She was 76, 2 years older than me. We'd always been close, even across the distance. We talked every week, sent cards for birthdays and holidays. "What do you mean you can't get out of bed? Did you fall?" "The cancer's, it's back. Gabby, stage 4. They said there's nothing more they can do except manage the pain. But I can't manage anything. I can't make it to the bathroom. I can't feed myself. I'm alone here." My heart dropped into my stomach. Josephine had 2 children, but they both lived overseas. Her son Marcus was in Germany with his military family. Her daughter Patricia was in Japan teaching English. They couldn't just drop everything and fly back. "I'm coming," I said without hesitation. "I'll be there tomorrow." "Gabby, it's too much. You don't have to. I'm your sister. I'm coming." After we hung up, I stood in my kitchen, my hands shaking. 3 weeks minimum, maybe a month. That's what the hospice nurse told me when I called to ask questions. Josephine would need round-the-clock care. Bathing, feeding, medication management, help using the bathroom. I could do that. I'd taken care of people my whole life. This was my sister. Of course I'd go. But that meant leaving my house, my sanctuary. I walked through each room slowly that afternoon, touching the walls like I was saying goodbye. I knew it was dramatic, but I'd never left for more than a weekend before. The thought of being gone for weeks made my chest tight. I called Alex that evening. "Hey, Mom, what's up?" His voice was distracted. I could hear a TV in the background. "Son, I need to tell you something. Aunt Josephine is very sick. I'm going to Oregon tomorrow to take care of her for a few weeks." "Oh," a pause. Wow. I'm sorry to hear that. Is she okay?" "She has stage 4 cancer, Alex. No, she's not okay." "Right, sorry, that was a dumb question." Another pause. "So you're going to be gone for a while." 2 to 3 weeks, maybe longer. I wanted to let you know." "Okay, thanks for telling me." I waited for more, for Do you need anything, or can I help, or I'll check on the house for you? Nothing. Alex, I was wondering if you could stop by the house once or twice while I'm gone, just to make sure everything's okay. Maybe water my hydrangeas if it doesn't rain. Oh, yeah, sure, I can do that. Thank you, honey. That would mean a lot. No problem. Hey, the spare key is still under the flower pot by the back door, right? Actually, no. I moved it after that break-in scare last year. I'll put one under the big hydrangea pot on the front porch, the blue one. Got it. Okay, Mom, I gotta go. Julia and I have dinner plans, but have a safe trip, okay? And tell Aunt Josephine I hope she feels better. She's dying, I wanted to say. She's not going to feel better. But I just said I will. Love you, son. Love you too. Bye. The line went dead. I stood there holding the phone, feeling a familiar ache in my chest. The ache of a mother who loves her child more than he loves her back. But I pushed it away. I had things to do. The next morning I was up at 4. I cleaned the house from top to bottom even though it was already clean. I watered all my plants twice, giving them extra to last. I took out the trash, did all the laundry, organized my closet. Rose came over at 7 just as I was locking up. You call me if you need anything, she said, pulling me into a tight hug. And don't worry about the house. I'll walk by every few days to make sure it looks okay. Thank you, Rose. You're a good friend. Alex is checking on it too, right? He said he would. Rose's expression shifted slightly, but she didn't say what we were both thinking. I took the Greyhound bus to Oregon. 12 hours of highways and rest stops and strangers sleeping on my shoulder. But it saved money compared to flying, and old habits die hard. When I got to Josephine's apartment, I understood why she'd called. My strong, vibrant sister had become a ghost. She couldn't have weighed more than 90 pounds. Her skin was gray, her eyes sunken. The apartment smelled like sickness and fear. Gabby, she whispered when she saw me. Tears rolled down her hollow cheeks. I took her hand and squeezed it gently. I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. And I wasn't. For 3 weeks, I became a different person. I wasn't Gabriella Hartford homeowner friend individual. I was a caregiver, a nurse, a sister watching her family die slowly. The hospice nurse came 3 times a week. Her name was Patricia, same as Josephine's daughter, which felt like a cruel joke. She was kind but efficient, showing me how to change bedding with someone still in the bed, how to manage the morphine pump, how to clean bed sores. You're doing great, Patricia would say, but I didn't feel great. I felt exhausted, terrified, heartbroken. Josephine's good days were rare. On those days, she'd be lucid enough to talk, and we'd reminisce about our childhood, about our mother's terrible cooking and our father's jokes, about the summer we snuck out to go to the lake and got caught. Remember when you saved up all year to buy that bike? Josephine asked one afternoon, her voice barely audible. The blue Schwinn, I said, smiling at the memory. I was 12, and Tommy stole it the first week. Not Tommy, the boy down the street. Tommy was the one who got it back for me. My husband. We'd known each other since we were children. You always were a fighter, Gabby. Always working for what you wanted. Learned it from Dad, I said. No, Josephine squeezed my hand with what little strength she had. You learned it from yourself. You're the strongest person I know. I didn't feel strong. I felt like I was breaking. The bad days were worse. Josephine would moan in pain even with the morphine. She'd call out for her children confused, asking why they weren't there. I'd hold her hand and lie, saying they'd be there soon. I slept on her couch, waking every 2 hours to check on her. I lost track of time. Days blurred into nights. I forgot to eat, surviving on crackers and coffee. I called Alex 3 times during those 3 weeks. The first time he answered quickly. Hey, Mom, how's it going? It's hard, son. Really hard. Josephine is in a lot of pain. That's rough. Well, hang in there. You're doing a good thing. That was it. No, how are you? No, do you need anything? Just hang in there. The second call went to voicemail. He texted back 2 hours later. In a meeting, everything okay? I replied, yes. Just wanted to hear your voice. He sent back a thumbs up emoji. The third time I called, Julia answered his phone. Alex can't talk right now, she said, her tone clipped. No hi, Gabriella, or how's your sister? Oh, okay, can you just tell him I called? Sure, she hung up. He called me back 3 days later. Hey, Mom, sorry I missed you. Julia said you called. It's okay, I missed talking to you. Yeah, I know. Things are crazy here. Work's insane. Work. He was still working, wasn't he? He'd mentioned something about his IT job at a startup. How are things at the house? I asked. Did you stop by? Oh yeah, totally. Everything looks good. Plants are fine. Something in his voice sounded off, but I was too tired to push. Thank you, honey. That means a lot. No problem. Hey, I gotta run, but keep me posted on Aunt Josephine, okay? I will. Love you. Love you too. After he hung up, I sat in Josephine's dim living room and let myself cry for the first time in weeks. I cried for my sister, for my loneliness, for the distance between me and my son. And then I dried my tears, washed my face, and went back to work. Because that's what you do. You survive. By the third week, Josephine had stabilized somewhat. The hospice nurse increased her medication and she was sleeping more peacefully. Her daughter, Patricia, managed to fly in from Japan for a week. You should go home, Aunt Gabby, Patricia said. I've got things covered now and I found a live-in hospice aide who starts tomorrow. Are you sure? Positive. You've done so much already. More than anyone could ask. You need to rest. I looked at my sister sleeping quietly in her bed. Her breathing was steady, her face finally peaceful. Call me if anything changes, I said. I will. Thank you for everything. I packed my small suitcase that night. The relief of going home was overwhelming. I missed my house with an ache that was almost physical. I missed my bed, my kitchen, my hydrangeas. I missed my routine, my peace, my sanctuary. The bus ride back felt longer than the one there, even though it was the same 12 hours. I slept most of the way, my body finally allowing itself to rest. When the bus pulled into the station in my town, it was 4:30 in the afternoon. The sun was still high, the air warm. It was a beautiful day. I walked the 6 blocks from the bus station to my house, my small suitcase rolling behind me. My feet hurt. My back ached. I was exhausted in a way that went bone deep. But I was going home. And then I turned onto my street. Something was wrong. I felt it before I even saw my house. It was an instinct, a prickle at the back of my neck. The way animals sense danger before it arrives. There was a car in my driveway. Not just any car, a shiny black BMW with temporary dealer plates. I didn't recognize it. My steps slowed. My heart started beating faster. Maybe it was Rose drove an old Camry. Maybe Alex had gotten a new car, but Alex drove a beat-up Toyota. He'd never mentioned getting a BMW. I walked up my driveway slowly, my suitcase suddenly feeling very heavy. The curtains in my living room were open. I could see lights on inside, even though it was still daylight. The TV was on. I could see the flickering glow. Someone was in my house. My hands shook as I pulled out my keys. I stood at my own front door, afraid to open it, afraid of what I'd find inside. I put the key in the lock. It turned smoothly. I pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. It wasn't my house. My house smelled like coffee and lemon polish and old books and the lilac candles I burned on Sunday evenings. This smell was foreign, thick, cloying perfume. Expensive and aggressive. The kind of scent that announced itself. I stepped inside my suitcase, still on my shoulder. There were shoes by the door. Women's high heels, bright red, kicked off carelessly on my welcome mat. A purse designer with gold hardware tossed on the small table by the entrance. My heart was pounding now. I walked forward into my living room, my feet moving on autopilot. And there he was. Alex, my son, sitting in my armchair. The worn leather chair that had been his father's. The one I'd kept in the same spot for 20 years, the one I sat in when I missed Thomas most. Alex was slouched in it, feet up on my coffee table, watching my TV. He turned when he heard my footsteps. His face went white. Mom! That one word. Shocked. Guilty. Caught. What are you doing here? I asked. My voice sounded strange, distant. I wasn't expecting you today. He stood up quickly, nearly knocking over a beer bottle on the side table. My side table. Where had the beer come from? I didn't keep alcohol in the house. You weren't expecting me. Alex, this is my house. I don't need to announce when I'm coming home. No, I know I just meant... He ran his hand through his hair, a nervous gesture he'd had since childhood. I thought you were coming back next week. I said I'd be gone 2 to 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks. What's going on here? Why are you... I stopped. I heard something. A woman's voice drifting from the back of the house. From my bedroom. My bedroom. Alex, Can you bring me a glass of wine, the red one, not the cheap stuff your mom probably has? The voice was bright, careless, entitled. Julia. Everything seemed to move in slow motion. I looked at Alex. He looked at the floor. Alex? My voice was very quiet now, very controlled. Is Julia here? Mom, I can explain. I didn't wait for his explanation. I walked past him, my legs moving of their own accord down the short hallway to my bedroom. The door was open, and there she was. Julia Bennett Hartford was sprawling across my bed. My bed. The bed I'd made just before I left 3 weeks ago with clean white sheets I'd washed and hung in the sun to dry. The bed where Thomas had died, where I'd held his hand and said goodbye. Julia was lying on top of the covers in silk pajama shorts and a tank top, painting her toenails a violent shade of red. Her clothes, designer dresses, and expensive blouses were draped over my antique chair. Her makeup and perfumes were scattered across my dresser, the one Thomas had refinished for our 20th anniversary. The room reeked of her perfume. She looked up when I appeared in the doorway, and for a moment there was confusion on her face. She didn't recognize me. Then her eyes widened slightly. "Oh," she said. Not, "Oh, Gabriella, you're back," or, "Oh, I'm sorry." Just, "Oh." She didn't move, didn't sit up, didn't look embarrassed or apologetic. She looked annoyed. "You're back early," she said, capping the nail polish bottle. "Alex said you weren't coming until next week." I couldn't speak. I literally couldn't form words. I stood in the doorway of my own bedroom staring at this woman who was treating my most sacred space like a hotel room. "What?" I finally managed. "What are you doing in my bedroom?" Julia swung her legs off the bed. My white sheets now had red nail polish on them, I noticed with a sickening jolt, and stood up. "Alex and I needed a place to stay," she said, as if this explained everything. As if this was perfectly reasonable. "Our landlord kicked us out 2 weeks ago. Alex remembered you were gone, so we figured we'd stay here until we found another place." "You figured—" My voice came out louder than I intended. Julia took a step back, her eyes narrowing. "Alex said it would be fine," she said defensively. "You were gone. The house was empty. What's the big deal, the big deal?" I looked around my room at her things everywhere at the violation of my space. "The big deal is that this is my house, my bedroom. You didn't ask permission. You didn't even tell me. We didn't want to bother you while you were dealing with your sister." Julia said, her tone shifting to something that almost sounded reasonable. "Alex said you had enough to worry about." Alex appeared in the doorway behind me. "Mom, please just let me explain." I whirled on him. "You have been in my house for 2 weeks. He looked at his shoes. "We were going to tell you. We were just waiting for the right time." The right time. I was shaking now, my hands trembling with rage and hurt and disbelief. "The right time was before you moved into my house without permission." "It's not like you were using it," Julia said from behind me. I turned back to her slowly. She had her arms crossed now, her expression defiant. She'd moved from defensive to aggressive. "What did you just say?" "I said you weren't using it. You live here alone in this big house. 2 bedrooms and you only use 1. We needed a place. Alex is your son. Isn't helping family what you're supposed to do?" Something in her tone, the entitlement, the casual cruelty, made my vision go white for a moment. "Get out," I said quietly. "Excuse me? Get out of my bedroom." Julia's eyes went wide. For a second, she actually looked scared. Then her expression hardened into something ugly. "You know what?" Julia's voice rose sharp and vicious. "I am so sick of this. We have been here for 2 weeks, and all Alex does is talk about how his mother is going to freak out, how we have to be careful, how everything has to be perfect for precious Gabriella." She moved closer to me, and I could smell the wine on her breath. She'd been drinking. In the afternoon. In my house. "This house is a dump," she shouted. "The furniture is ancient. The kitchen is from the 1980s. Everything smells like old lady and mothballs, but we're supposed to be grateful because Alex's sad old mother finally let us use it." "Julia," Alex tried to intervene, but she talked right over him. "No, I'm done pretending you want to know the truth, Gabriella." She spat my name like poison. "We didn't figure we'd stay here. We needed to stay here because your useless son got us evicted. He couldn't make rent because he lost his job 2 months ago, but he was too scared to tell Mommy." The room went silent. I looked at Alex. He was white as a sheet, staring at Julia with an expression of pure horror. You lost your job." I whispered. Alex opened his mouth closed. It opened it again. Mom, I was going to tell you. When? My voice cracked. When were you going to tell me? When were you going to tell me you moved into my house? When were you going to tell me anything? See? Julia laughed a harsh, brittle sound. This is exactly why he didn't tell you, because you'd make it all about you. Poor Gabriella, poor abandoned Gabriella, nobody appreciates her. Stop it! Alex finally raised his voice. Julia, that's enough. No, it's not enough. Julia turned her fury on him now. I am tired of living in poverty because you can't keep a job. I am tired of worrying about money, and I am tired of tiptoeing around your mother who acts like she's the only person in the world who's ever struggled. She turned back to me, and what I saw in her eyes made my blood run cold. Pure contempt. You want to know what Alex and I talk about at night, Gabriella? Her voice dropped to something quieter, more poisonous. We talk about how this house will be his someday, after you're gone. How we can fix it up, sell it, finally have some money for once. You think you're so special because you bought one crappy little house. My parents have a vacation home bigger than this. Julia, stop! Alex grabbed her arm, but she shook him off. What are you going to do, Gabriella? Julia's smile was cruel. Kick us out, your own son. Make us homeless. Because if you do, Alex will have to choose between his wife and his mother. She moved even closer, so close I could see the smudged mascara at the corner of her eyes. And let me tell you something, old woman. He's not going to choose you. The words hit me like a physical blow. I looked past Julia to my son, my boy, the child I'd raised, sacrificed for loved more than anything in the world. He stood in the doorway of my bedroom and he said nothing. He didn't defend me, didn't correct his wife, didn't say, of course I choose my mother. He just stood there looking at the floor, his hands shoved in his pockets. And in that moment, something inside me didn't break. It crystallized. It became very, very cold and very, very hard. I looked at Julia, then at Alex, then back at Julia. When I spoke, my voice was calm, dangerously calm. Get your things out of my bedroom, I said. Right now. Julia laughed. Or what? Or I will remove them myself and put them on the lawn. You wouldn't dare. I walked past her to my closet. Her clothes were crammed in next to mine, her shoes piled on the floor. I grabbed an armful and turned toward the door. Mom, wait it. Alex finally moved, blocking my path. Please, let's just talk about this. We can work something out. Move, I said quietly. Mom, move or I will walk through you. Something in my face must have convinced him. He stepped aside. I carried Julia's clothes down the hallway, through the living room and out the front door. I dumped them on the lawn. Then I went back for more. You bitch! Julia shrieked behind me. Those are designer, they're going to get dirty. I made 3 trips. Dresses, shoes, makeup, everything. All of it went on the lawn. Alex followed me, pleading. Mom, please, you're overreacting. We'll move to the guest room. We'll stay out of your way. Just give us a few weeks to find another place. I stopped on my 4th trip, my arms full of Julia's toiletries from my bathroom. A few weeks, I repeated. You've already been here 2 weeks without telling me. You've been sleeping in my bed, using my things, violating my home. And you want more time. We have nowhere else to go. That is not my problem. I dumped the toiletries on the lawn. A bottle of expensive shampoo rolled into the grass. Julia stood on the porch, shaking with rage. You can't do this. We'll sue you. I'll call the police. Call them, I said calmly. I'm the homeowner. You're trespassing. Let's see who they arrest. I walked past her into the house and locked the door behind me. Through the window, I watched Julia screaming, watched Alex trying to calm her down, watched them frantically gathering her things from the lawn as neighbors started to peek out their windows. I stood there in my living room, my house, my sanctuary, and I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty. My phone rang. It was Rose. Gabby, her voice was worried. I just saw what's happening. I saw Alex and Julia. Can you come over? My voice shook. Please, I'm already on my way. I sank into my armchair, Thomas's chair, and waited. Outside, I could hear Julia shouting, threatening, cursing, and I realized something. This wasn't over. This was just the beginning. Rose arrived 10 minutes later, letting herself in through the back door like she always did. She found me standing in my kitchen, staring at the sink full of dirty dishes that weren't mine. Gabby, she said softly, putting her hand on my shoulder. I turned to look at her, and whatever she saw in my face made her pull me into a tight hug. "Tell me everything," she said. So I did. We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where we'd had tea every Tuesday for 15 years, and I told her about coming home, about finding Alex in my house, about Julia in my bedroom, about the things Julia had said. Rose's expression went from concerned to horrified to furiously angry. "That girl said what to you?" she demanded. "In your own house. It doesn't matter what she said. It absolutely matters. Gabby, you can't let them talk to you that way." Through the window, I could see Alex loading Julia's things into the BMW. Julia was sitting in the passenger seat, her phone pressed to her ear, gesturing wildly. "I threw her things out," I said quietly. "I lost my temper, and I threw her things on the lawn like trash." "Good," Rose said firmly. "She deserved it." "But Alex," my voice cracked. "He didn't say anything, Rose. His wife called me an old woman, said they were waiting for me to die so they could have my house, and he just stood there." Rose took both my hands in hers. "Honey, I need you to listen to me. That boy out there, he's not the son you raised. Something happened to him. That woman got her claws in him and turned him into someone else. But he's still my son." "Is he?" Rose's voice was gentle but firm. "Because the Alex I remember would never let anyone disrespect his mother. The Alex who used to mow your lawn every Sunday without being asked who called you every week when he first moved out. That Alex wouldn't stand silent while his wife called you names." I looked down at our joined hands. Rose's were spotted with age, the knuckles swollen with arthritis, just like mine. "What do I do?" I whispered. "First," Rose said, standing up, "we see what else they've done to your house. Then we decide." I didn't want to look. I wanted to believe that the bedroom was the only space they'd invaded. But Rose was right. I needed to know. We started in the kitchen. The sink was full of dishes, expensive plates I'd never seen before mixed with my good china. The plates Thomas had given me for our 25th anniversary. The ones I only used for special occasions. Now they were stacked haphazardly, covered in dried food and grease. I opened the refrigerator. My carefully organized shelves were chaos. Takeout containers, half-empty bottles of wine, expensive cheeses, imported olives. My food, the groceries I'd bought before leaving, were either gone or pushed to the back, forgotten and spoiling. "They ate everything," I said, staring at a container of strawberries I'd bought. They were covered in mold now, inedible. Rose opened the pantry. "Gabby, look at this." My pantry had always been my pride. Organized, labeled, stocked with essentials. I'd learned long ago to always have food in the house. Growing up poor teaches you that. Now it was a mess. Cereal boxes left open, spilled flour, half-eaten bags of chips mixed in with my canned goods. But that wasn't the worst part. On the top shelf where I kept my special things, the expensive coffee beans I only bought myself for Christmas, the imported tea Rose had given me for my birthday, the jar of honey from the local farmer's market, everything was gone. Used, consumed, taken without asking. "They used everything," I said numbly. "Everything I was saving." Rose put her arm around my shoulders. "Come on, let's keep looking." The bathroom was worse. The small space reeked of Julia's perfume. My simple white towels were crumpled in a damp heap on the floor. In their place, hung on my towel bar, were expensive fluffy towels in deep purple, brand new, the tags still attached. She'd bought new towels rather than use mine. The medicine cabinet was full of her products. Expensive serums, designer makeup, medications I didn't recognize. My things, my blood pressure pills, my vitamins, my arthritis cream were shoved into the corner, some bottles knocked over and spilling. "She just moved in," I said, my voice hollow. Like it was her house, like I didn't matter. "The living room," Rose said grimly. "Let's check the living room." My coffee table had water rings on it, circular stains from glasses and bottles left without coasters. The coasters I'd set out handmade by a local artisan were still stacked neatly on the side table. Unused. There were magazines I'd never seen before scattered on the couch. Fashion magazines, celebrity gossip, nothing I would ever read. The TV remote was on the floor. My reading glasses, the ones I'd left on the side table, were gone. And then I saw it. On the mantel where I kept my wedding photo, the one of Thomas and me on our wedding day, both of us young and hopeful and in love, someone had placed an empty wine glass, right in front of the photo, blocking it from view. Something in my chest cracked. "I want to check the guest room," I said quietly. We walked down the hallway. The guest room door was closed. I opened it slowly. The room was destroyed. The bed was unmade sheets tangled in half on the floor. There were clothes everywhere, Alex's clothes on the floor, draped over the chair, piled on the dresser. Fast food bags and empty soda cans littered the nightstand. The closet door was open. Inside, pushed to the back, were the boxes where I kept Alex's childhood things. His baby clothes, his school projects, his drawings, his report cards. Things I'd saved because I loved him, because I was proud of him, because I wanted to remember the boy he'd been. Someone had opened the boxes. The contents were scattered, like someone had rifled through them looking for something, and then just left the mess. I knelt down and picked up a drawing. Alex had made it in first grade, a picture of our family. Him, me, and Thomas standing in front of a house. He'd written "My Family" at the top in wobbly letters. The paper was crumpled now, with a footprint on it. Someone had stepped on it. Rose knelt beside me. "Oh, honey." I stood up, still holding the drawing, and walked to the window. I could see my backyard from here, see my garden, my hydrangeas, the plants I'd watered carefully before I left, giving them extra to last while I was gone. They were brown, dead, every single one. 3 weeks without water had killed them. But Alex had promised. He'd said he would water them. He'd lied. I don't know how long I stood there staring at my dead garden. It felt like hours, but it was probably only minutes. When I finally turned around, Rose was holding something. My jewelry box. The small wooden box Thomas had made for me in his woodworking class 40 years ago. The one where I kept my few pieces of good jewelry, my wedding ring. I wore it on a chain around my neck, my grandmother's pearl earrings, a small gold bracelet. The box was open. Empty. Where? I couldn't finish the sentence. Rose's face was grim. "Check the bedroom. Julia's jewelry." We went back to my bedroom. On my dresser, mixed in with Julia's expensive cosmetics, was my jewelry. She'd taken my jewelry box and used it for her own things. My grandmother's pearls were tangled with Julia's cheap fashion jewelry. My gold bracelet, a gift from Thomas for our 30th anniversary, was tossed carelessly on top. "She took everything," I whispered. "She came into my house and took everything and made it hers." Rose turned to face me, and I saw something in her expression I'd never seen before. Pure, cold fury. "Gabriella Hartford," she said slowly, "are you going to let her get away with this?" "What can I do? Alex is my son. Alex is a grown man who made his choices. You said Julia told you they talk about waiting for you to die so they can have this house." I nodded, unable to speak. "Then they declared war, Gabby. And in war you don't surrender. You fight back." An hour later there was a knock at my front door. I knew who it was before I opened it. Alex stood on my porch, his hands shoved in his pockets, looking like a guilty teenager caught sneaking out. "Mom," he said, "can we talk?" Behind him, the BMW was still in my driveway. Julia sat in the passenger seat, watching. "Talk," I said. I didn't invite him in. "Look, I'm sorry. I know we should have asked before we stayed here. I know that was wrong. But, Mom, we didn't have anywhere else to go. You had 2 weeks to tell me. You called me 3 times. You could have mentioned it. I didn't want to stress you out while you were dealing with Aunt Josephine." He ran his hand through his hair. I thought it would be okay. You were gone, the house was empty." "It's not empty, Alex. It's my home. Even when I'm not here, it's still mine. You don't just take what's not yours." "I know you're right. I'm sorry." He looked genuinely remorseful. For a moment, I saw my little boy again, the one who used to cry when he disappointed me. Julia got upset and said some things she didn't mean. "She meant them," I said quietly. "No, she was just angry." "Alex," I stepped closer, looking up at my son. When had he gotten so tall? When had he become a stranger? Did you really lose your job 2 months ago? His face went pale. "Mom, is that true?" "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I got laid off. The company downsized. And you didn't tell me. I didn't want you to worry. I thought I'd find something new quickly, but..." He trailed off, looking at his feet. "But you didn't. The market's tough right now. It's taking longer than I expected." I felt something shift in my chest. Despite everything, he was still my son. He was struggling. Maybe I should help. "How much money do you have saved?" I asked. "Not much. Maybe $200. $200 for a 42-year-old man. And Julia, does she work?" Alex shifted uncomfortably. She's been looking, but most places won't pay what she thinks she's worth. What she thinks she's worth, not what she's worth, what she thinks. So neither of you has income and you need a place to stay, I said slowly. Just for a little while, until I get back on my feet. Mom, please. We really don't have anywhere else. Julia's parents won't help us. Why not? He looked away. They had a falling out. They don't talk anymore. What kind of falling out? I don't know, some family drama. The point is they won't take us in, and my friends, he laughed bitterly. Turns out they're not really friends when you can't go out drinking with them anymore. I studied my son, really looked at him. He'd lost weight. His clothes hung on him. There were dark circles under his eyes and his hair needed cutting. He looked tired, defeated. He looked how I'd felt at his age when Thomas died, and I thought I couldn't go on. Alex, I said gently, come inside. We need to have a real conversation. Hope lit up his face. Really? Thank you, Mom. I knew you'd. Just you, I said. Julia stays outside. His expression fell. Mom, she's my wife. She called me an old woman waiting to die. She said you talk about taking my house after I'm gone. She violated every room in my home, used my things without asking. Let my plants die. My voice stayed calm, but steel ran through it. I will talk to you, but I will not have that woman in my house right now. Alex looked back at the car. Julia was watching us, her expression hard. She'll be upset, he said weakly. Then she'll be upset. I stepped aside. You have 5 minutes to decide. Come in alone or leave. Your choice. For a moment I thought he'd choose her. Thought he'd turn around, get in that car, and drive away. Part of me almost wanted him to. At least then I'd know where I stood. But after a long moment he nodded. Okay, he said quietly. Let me just tell her. I watched him walk to the car, watched him lean into the window, watched Julia's face contort with rage. She was shouting. I couldn't hear the words, but I could see her fury. Alex straightened up and walked back to me without looking back. Julia laid on the horn. One long angry blast that echoed down the street. Ignore her, I said, and led my son inside. Rose had made tea. She handed Alex a cup and sat down at the table with us. Mrs. Patterson, Alex said, nodding at her. Alex, Rose replied coolly. We sat in silence for a moment. I could hear the kitchen clock ticking. Outside, Julia honked the horn again. Tell me everything, I said. The truth this time, starting with when you lost your job. So he did. The story came out in fits and starts, each revelation worse than the last. He'd been fired, not laid off. Performance issues. He'd been distracted at work, making mistakes, missing deadlines. Why was he distracted? Julia wanted to buy a house, he said, staring into his tea. She found this place beautiful, way out of our price range, but she was convinced we could make it work. She said her parents would help with the down payment. But they didn't. No, she had some big fight with them about, I don't even know what. She won't talk about it. But after that, they cut her off financially. So no house. Right. But Julia, he struggled for words. She grew up wealthy, Mom. Really wealthy. Her dad owns commercial real estate. Her mom doesn't work. They live in this huge house in the suburbs. Julia had everything growing up. And now she's married to a man without a job, living in a rented apartment. Alex flinched but nodded. She's not handling it well. She's angry all the time. Angry at me, angry at her parents, angry at the world. That doesn't excuse how she spoke to me. I know it doesn't. I should have said something. I should have defended you. He finally looked up and his eyes were red. I'm a coward, Mom. I know I am, but I'm so tired of fighting with her. Every day is a battle and I don't have the energy anymore. There was something else. I could feel it. Something he wasn't saying. Alex, I said slowly, how did you really end up getting evicted? His hand tightened around the teacup. We fell behind on rent, he said. 3 months behind. 3 months? What happened to the money you had saved? Silence. Alex. His phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at it and immediately flipped it face down, but I'd seen the screen. Final notice. Call now. What was that? I asked. Nothing, just spam. Alex Hartford, don't lie to me. I reached for the phone, but he grabbed it first. Mom, it's nothing. Let me see that phone. Mom? Now. Something in my voice made him hand it over. I unlocked it. He'd never changed the passcode from his birthday, same as always, and looked at the screen. It was a text from a debt collection agency. Final notice. Your account with Golden River Casino is 120 days past due. Amount owed $8.150. Legal action will be taken if payment is not received within 10 days. I stared at the screen. Then I scrolled up. There were dozens of messages, different companies, different amounts. Online Poker Championship 3,200 past due. Lucky Strike Sports Betting, 2,100 past due. High Rollers Casino, app 1,450s past due. I felt like I was falling. Alex, my voice came out as a whisper. What is this? He had his head in his hands. Mom, I can explain, you're gambling. I looked at Rose. Her face was white with shock. My son is gambling. It's not like that. It's just, it started as fun. Just a few dollars here and there. Online poker, some sports betting. I thought I could win money to help with bills. How much, I demanded. How much do you owe? He didn't answer. I kept scrolling through his messages, each one worse than the last. Collection notices, threats of legal action, interest charges piling up. I did the math in my head. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. $15,000, she said. You owe $15,000. Alex started crying. My 42-year-old son sat at my kitchen table and sobbed like a child. I was going to win it back, he said through tears. I had a system. I was so close so many times. But then I'd lose, and I'd have to bet more to make up for it, and then I'd lose that too, and it spiraled. Does Julia know? He shook his head. She knows some of it, not all of it. She thinks it's about 5,000. You lied to her too. I didn't know what else to do. Every time I tried to quit, I'd think about how much we needed the money, and I'd convince myself that the next bet would be the one that would fix everything. I handed his phone back to him. My hands were steady now. The shock had turned into something else, something cold and clear. That's why you're really here, I said. Not just because you needed a place to stay. You needed to hide from the collectors, from the consequences. Mom, please. How long were you planning to stay in my house without telling me, Alex? A month too, until I died and you inherited it. No, it wasn't like that. Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Make me understand how my son moved into my house, let his wife sleep in my bed, let my plants die, used my things, and lied to me for weeks. Make me understand that. Alex opened his mouth, closed it. He had no answer. Outside, Julia honked the horn again. Long, insistent blasts. Your wife is calling you, I said quietly. You should go. Mom, please just listen. I said go. Rose stood up, her expression fierce. You heard her, Alex. Leave. Mrs. Patterson, this is between me and my mother. No, Rose said firmly. This is about a boy who forgot everything his mother taught him. About respect, about honesty, about hard work instead of get-rich-quick schemes. She moved to stand beside me, and I'd never loved her more than in that moment. You broke your mother's heart today, Rose continued. And not just today. Every day you've been lying to her. Every phone call where you pretended everything was fine. Every time you let that woman disrespect her. I'm sorry, Alex said desperately. I'm so sorry. Then prove it, they said. Get help for your gambling. Get a job, any job. Stop letting Julia run your life. And when you've done those things, when you've become the man I raised you to be, then maybe we can talk. So you're kicking me out, your own son. I'm letting you stand on your own feet, something I should have done a long time ago. Alex stood up his chair, scraping loudly against the floor. He looked at me with such hurt, such betrayal that I almost took it back. Almost. Fine, he said, his voice hard. If that's how you want it. It's not how I want it, Alex. It's how it has to be. He walked to the door, then turned back. You're going to regret this, he said. When you're old and alone and need someone to take care of you, don't come crying to me. The words were meant to hurt. They did. But I kept my expression calm. I've been alone for 20 years, I said. I know how to take care of myself. He left, slamming the door behind him. Through the window, I watched him get into the BMW. Watched Julia immediately start yelling at him. Watched him yell back. And then I watched them drive away. Rose put her arm around my shoulders. You did the right thing. Then why does it feel so wrong? Because you love him. But Gabby, love without boundaries isn't love. It's just letting yourself be destroyed. I nodded, unable to speak past the lump in my throat. We sat there for a long time watching the sun set through my kitchen window. I should have felt relieved. They were gone. My house was mine again. But all I felt was empty. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in my bed finally, but I couldn't stop thinking about Alex's face when he left. About the way Julia had screamed at him in the car. About the $15,000 in gambling debt. How had I not known? How had I missed the signs? But I knew the answer. I'd missed the signs because I'd stopped looking. I'd let the distance between us grow so wide that I couldn't see him anymore. At 3 a.m. I gave up on sleep. I got up, made coffee, and sat on my back porch in the darkness. My dead hydrangeas were just shadows in the moonlight. I'd planted those 20 years ago, right after Thomas died. They'd been my therapy, my way of healing. Watching something grow, bloom, thrive. Now they were gone, just like everything else it seemed. The sun rose slowly. I watched it paint the sky pink and gold, and I made a decision. I couldn't save Alex from himself. He had to want to change. But I could save myself. I could protect what was mine. I went inside, showered, dressed in my good navy pants and a clean blouse. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked old, tired, defeated. No, I stood up straighter, lifted my chin. I was Gabriella Hartford. I'd worked every day of my life since I was 14 years old. I'd raised a child alone after my husband died. I'd bought this house with my own sweat and determination. I was not defeated. I was done being a victim. At 9 a.m., my doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a moment, I hoped it might be Alex coming to apologize properly. It wasn't. A man stood on my porch, mid-30s cheap suit, tired eyes. He held a clipboard. "Are you Gabriella Hartford?" he asked. "Yes. Who are you?" "My name is Dennis Kowalski. I'm from Premier Collection Services." He held out a business card. "I'm looking for Alex Hartford. Is he here?" My stomach dropped. "No." "Do you know where I can find him?" "No, I don't," the man sighed. "Mrs. Hartford, your son owes a substantial amount of money to several online gambling sites. We've been trying to reach him for months, but he's not responding to calls or emails. We tracked him to this address. He doesn't live here. Our records show he's been using this address for the past 2 weeks. Mail has been delivered here in his name." I felt cold. "What mail?" Mr. Kowalski checked his clipboard. "Credit card offers, collection notices, legal correspondence. It's all been coming here." I walked to my mailbox at the end of the driveway. I hadn't checked it since I got home yesterday. It was stuffed full. I pulled out the stack of envelopes. At least 20 pieces of mail. Most of it was addressed to Alex Hartford at my address. Collection notices, final warnings, legal threats. "He changed his address," I said slowly. "He moved here and changed his mailing address without telling me." "It appears so," Mr. Kowalski said. "Mrs. Hartford, I know this is difficult, but your son owes $15,347 to various creditors. If he doesn't make arrangements to pay, they will file civil suits against him. That could include garnishment of wages, seizure of assets, liens on property." "He doesn't own any property," I said numbly. "No, but you do. And if he's listed this as his address, there could be legal implications for you as well." My head snapped up. "What if he's claiming residency here? Creditors could potentially place a lien on this property to satisfy his debts. It's complicated, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've seen it happen before." I stared at this stranger on my porch, this man who'd just told me my son's mistakes could cost me my house. The house I'd worked 30 years to buy. The house that was my entire life. "What do I do?" I asked. "You need to prove he doesn't live here. Document everything. Get a lawyer if you can afford one. Most importantly, don't let him use this address anymore." He handed me another card. "This is my supervisor. If your son wants to work out a payment plan, have him call us. The sooner the better." After he left, I stood in my driveway holding a stack of mail that represented my son's ruined life, and I felt something inside me harden even more. He'd put my house at risk. The one thing I had. The one thing that was truly mine. He'd gambled it all away without a second though. I called Rose. I need a lawyer, I said. Do you know anyone? She did. A man named Marcus Thompson who'd helped her daughter with an estate issue. She made the call and he agreed to see me that afternoon. In the meantime, I did something I'd been avoiding. I went through my house room by room, documenting everything they'd damaged or taken. I took photos of the water rings on my coffee table, the nail polish stain on my bed sheets, the empty pantry, the dead hydrangeas. I made lists, the coffee they'd used, the food they'd eaten, the electricity and water they'd consumed. I wasn't going to bill them. I didn't want their money. But I needed proof. Evidence that they'd been here without permission, that they'd violated my home, just in case. Around noon, my doorbell rang again. This time it was Julia. She stood on my porch wearing designer sunglasses and a look of pure hatred. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Yes, we do. She pushed past me into my house before I could stop her. Get out, I said. You're not welcome here. This is ridiculous. Julia spun to face me, yanking off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, her makeup smudged. She'd been crying. You threw us out, your own son. Do you have any idea where we slept last night? That's not my concern. We slept in the car, Gabriella, in a Walmart parking lot. Is that what you wanted to humiliate us? I wanted you to ask permission before moving into my house. I wanted respect. I wanted honesty. Oh, please, Julia laughed harshly. You want to talk about honesty? Let's be honest then. You're a bitter old woman who's angry that her son has a life that doesn't revolve around you. Julia, leave, now. No, you know what your problem is. You think you're so much better than everyone else because you worked hard and bought this crappy little house. But you know what? Nobody cares. This house is nothing. My parents' guest bathroom is bigger than your entire kitchen. Then go live with your parents, I said coldly. For the first time, I saw Julia falter. Something flickered across her face. Pain, shame, something real. I can't, she said quietly. Why not? She turned away. Because they told me I made my bed and now I have to lie in it. They said I chose wrong, married wrong, ruined my life, and they're done bailing me out. Despite myself, I felt a flicker of sympathy. What did you do? I was supposed to marry someone else, Julia said, her voice barely audible. His name was Richard, lawyer from a good family, exactly what my parents wanted. But I met Alex, and he was different, kind, real, not fake like everyone else in my circle. She turned back to me, and I saw tears on her cheeks. I loved him, she said. I actually loved him. So I called off the engagement with Richard. My parents were furious. They said I was throwing my life away. They cut me off financially, said I was dead to them. And now you regret it. Now I'm living in poverty, Julia shouted. Do you understand? I went from having everything to having nothing. And Alex promised me it would be okay, that he'd take care of me, that we'd build a life together. But he can't even keep a job. She was sobbing now, her careful facade completely crumbling. I'm 38 years old and I have nothing. No career, I never needed one before. No money of my own. No family who'll help me. Just a husband who's drowning in gambling debt and a mother-in-law who hates me. I don't hate you, I said quietly. Julia looked up, surprised. I don't hate you, I repeated. But I don't like you very much, and I certainly don't trust you. Because of what I said yesterday. Because of what you've done. You came into my house without permission. You took my things. You let my plants die. You disrespected everything I've worked for. I moved closer. And yes, because you told me you and Alex talk about waiting for me to die so you can have my house. I was angry. I didn't mean, did you say it? Julia bit her lip. Yes. Then you meant it, at least in that moment. And now I know how you really feel. So what now? Julia asked. You just abandon us, let us sleep in our car, let your son lose everything. My son made his choices. He chose to gamble instead of pay rent. He chose to lie instead of ask for help. He chose to sneak into my house instead of being honest with me. He's your son. And that's the only reason I'm even having this conversation. I took a deep breath. Julia, I'm going to say something, and I want you to really hear me. Are you listening? She nodded slowly. I love Alex. I will always love him. He's my child. But love doesn't mean letting someone destroy you. Love doesn't mean sacrificing your own well-being, your own security, your own peace of mind. I moved to the door and opened it. Your husband needs help, professional help for his gambling addiction, and you need help dealing with your anger and your disappointment with how your life turned out. Until you both get that help, until you both face your problems instead of running from them, nothing will change. And in the meantime, what? We just suffer. In the meantime, you figure it out. The same way I figured it out when Thomas died and I had to raise Alex alone. The same way I figured it out when I was cleaning other people's toilets to save money for this house. You figure it out. Julia stared at me for a long moment. Then she walked to the door. You're not who I thought you were, she said. Good. Maybe now you'll stop underestimating me. After she left, I locked the door and leaned against it. My phone buzzed. A text from Alex. Mom, please. Julia told me she talked to you. We're desperate. Can we at least stay in the guest room for a few weeks? We'll stay out of your way. You won't even know we're here. Please. I looked at the message for a long time. Then I typed back, no. 3 dots appeared. He was typing. They disappeared. Appeared again. Disappeared. Finally, fine. Don't blame me when you're old and alone with no one to take care of you. The same threat he'd made yesterday. I blocked his number. Then I called Rose. Can you come with me to the lawyer? I asked. I don't want to go alone. I'm already in my car, she said. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Marcus Thompson's office was in a small strip mall downtown. Simple, no-nonsense, exactly what I needed. He was a black man in his 50s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. Mrs. Hartford, he said, gesturing to a chair. Rose tells me you're having some family trouble. I told him everything. About finding Alex in my house. About the gambling debts. About the collection agency that morning. He took notes, asked questions, listened carefully. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair. Mrs. Hartford, I'm going to be very direct with you. Your son put you in a potentially dangerous legal position by using your address while having significant debt. If creditors believe he lives there, they could try to place liens on your property. My worst fear confirmed. What do I do? First, we establish that he doesn't live there and never did. We'll send certified letters to all the collection agencies stating that Alex Hartford is not a resident of your property and that all mail should be redirected. We'll also file a formal trespass notice which prevents him from entering your property without permission. A trespass notice against my own son. It's a legal protection for you. It doesn't mean you can never see him again. It just means he can't enter your property without your explicit permission each time. Given the circumstances, I strongly recommend it. I thought about the gambling debt. About my house, the thing I'd worked my whole life for being at risk because of Alex's choices. Okay, I said. Do it, Marcus nodded. I'll also prepare a formal eviction notice, even though they're not official tenants. This establishes a paper trail showing you never authorized their stay. If they try to claim any rights to the property later, you'll have documentation. How long will this take? I can have the trespass notice ready today. The eviction notice will take a few days. In the meantime, I suggest you change your locks, install security cameras if possible, and document everything. Every interaction, every threat, every contact. He slid a business card across the desk. This is a colleague of mine, Patricia Santos. She specializes in elder law. I think you should talk to her about protecting your assets long term. Estate planning, power of attorney, that kind of thing. You think he'd try to... I couldn't finish the sentence. I think desperate people do desperate things, Marcus said gently. And $15,000 in gambling debt with angry creditors makes people very desperate indeed. When Rose and I left the lawyer's office, I felt strange. Not relieved exactly, but clearer. I'd taken action. I was protecting myself. You okay? Rose asked as we drove back to my house. I just filed legal paperwork against my own son, I said. I don't think okay is the right word. You did what you had to do. Did I? Maybe I should have. No, Rose's voice was firm. No maybes, no second guessing. Alex is an adult. His problems are not your responsibility to fix. We pulled up to my house. There was an envelope taped to my front door. I got out slowly and pulled it down. Inside was a handwritten note. Mom, I'm sorry for everything, but you need to understand Julia is pregnant. 8 weeks. We can't live in a car with a baby coming. Please reconsider. Please. Alex. I read the note 3 times. Pregnant. A grandchild. My grandchild. I looked at Rose. She was reading over my shoulder. That changes things, doesn't it? I said softly. Rose took the note from my hands. Does it? She asked. Does it really? I stood in my kitchen holding Alex's note and felt the world tilt. Pregnant. Julia was pregnant. That meant I was going to be a grandmother. I'd wanted that. For years, I'd hoped Alex would have children. I'd imagined teaching a grandchild to garden baking cookies together, reading bedtime stories. All the things my own grandmother had done with me. But not like this. Not with threats and manipulation and lies hanging between us. Rose was watching me carefully. Gabby, what are you thinking? I'm thinking. I set the note down on the kitchen table. I'm thinking this is very convenient timing. Exactly, Rose said. Yesterday, Julia was screaming at you. Today, suddenly she's pregnant, and they just happened to mention it now right after you kicked them out. Maybe they were scared to tell me before. Maybe it's another lie. I wanted to believe my son wouldn't lie about something like this. But he'd already lied about losing his job, about the gambling, about living in my house. What was one more lie? I need to know if it's true, I said. How? I thought for a moment. Then I picked up my phone and called Marcus Thompson. Mr. Thompson, it's Gabriella Hartford. I have a question. If someone claims to be pregnant and uses it to coerce housing from a family member, is there any way to verify it? Are you saying your son and his wife are now claiming pregnancy? Yes, in a note, left on my door after I refused to let them stay. I could hear Marcus's pen scratching. Mrs. Hartford, I cannot advise you to demand medical proof from someone claiming pregnancy. That would be invasive and potentially illegal. However, I can tell you that you are not legally obligated to provide housing to anyone pregnant or not. Family relationship doesn't create legal housing obligations. So even if she is pregnant, you don't have to let them live with you. You could help in other ways, financial assistance, help finding resources, temporary hotel stays. But opening your home, that's your choice, not your obligation. After I hung up, Rose made more tea. We sat in silence for a long time. Do you believe it? She finally asked. I don't know, I admitted. Part of me wants to. Part of me wants to run over there and hug Alex and tell him everything will be okay, that I'll help them, that we'll figure it out together. And the other part remembers what Julia said, about waiting for me to die, about this house being nothing, about, I trailed off, about how my own son stood there and let her say those things. You know what bothers me most, I said. If Julia really is pregnant, why would she be drinking wine? Rose looked up sharply. When I got home, Julia told Alex to bring her wine. And when I walked into the bedroom, there were empty wine bottles in the trash. I saw them. Pregnant women don't drink. Exactly. We looked at each other. You need to see proof, Rose said. Before you make any decisions, you need to see actual proof. I picked up my phone and texted Alex's number, forgetting I'd blocked it. The message didn't go through. I unblocked him and tried again. I received your note. If Julia is pregnant, I'm happy for you both. But I need to see medical documentation before we discuss anything further. Mom, the response came within seconds. Are you serious? You don't believe us. That's low even for you. I typed back. I've been lied to multiple times in the past week. Proof first, then we talk. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, fine, we'll get you proof. But when we do, you better apologize. I set my phone down and looked at Rose. Now we wait, I said. I didn't sleep well that night either. I kept thinking about a baby, a little person who would be part Thomas, part me, part Alex. A chance to do things right, to be the grandmother I'd always wanted to be. But I also kept thinking about Julia's face when she screamed at me, about the wine bottles, about the convenient timing. Something didn't feel right. At 6 a.m., I was in my garden trying to salvage what I could of my hydrangeas. Most were dead, but a few still had some green at the roots. Maybe they could be saved. Maybe some things could come back from the dead. My phone rang. Unknown number. Hello, Mrs. Hartford. This is Patricia Santos from Thompson & Associates. Marcus asked me to call you about estate planning. Oh, yes. Thank you for calling. I have an opening this afternoon at 2 if that works for you. Given the urgency of your situation, I'd like to meet sooner rather than later. What urgency? Marcus mentioned your son has significant gambling debts and has been using your address. Mrs. Hartford, I specialize in protecting seniors from financial exploitation by family members. I'd like to review your situation and make sure all your assets are protected. The word stung. Financial exploitation. By my own son. Yes, I said quietly. 2 o'clock works. After we hung up, I sat in my garden and cried. Not loud, dramatic sobs, just quiet tears that rolled down my cheeks and dripped onto my dead plants. Rose found me there an hour later. "Oh, honey," she said, sitting beside me on the ground, her old knees cracking. "What happened to my boy?" I asked. "The Alex I raised wouldn't do any of this. He was kind, honest, hardworking." "People change," Rose said gently. "Sometimes not for the better. It's my fault. I didn't raise him right. I worked too much, wasn't home enough." "Stop," Rose took my hand. "You were a single mother who worked 3 jobs to keep a roof over his head and food on the table. You loved him, provided for him, taught him right from wrong. What he chose to do with those lessons is on him, not you. Then why does it feel like I failed? Because you're a mother. That's what mothers do. They blame themselves for everything." We sat there until the sun was high and my back ached from the cold ground. Then I stood up, brushed off my pants, and went inside to get ready for my meeting with Patricia Santos. At 1:30, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Alex standing there holding a piece of paper. "Here," he said, shoving it at me. "Your proof." I took the paper. It was a printout from a website. Not a doctor's letterhead, not an official medical document. Just a printed web page showing a pregnancy test result. "This isn't medical documentation," I said. "It's a digital test. You can see it's positive. Alex, anyone can download an image from the internet and print it. I need something from a doctor. A blood test result, an ultrasound, something official." His face reddened. "You really don't trust us at all, do you?" "No," I said simply. "I don't. You've given me no reason to. We can't afford a doctor's visit. We don't have insurance right now and it costs hundreds of dollars. Then I'll pay for it," I said. "I'll make the appointment myself. Julia can go tomorrow and they can send me the results directly." That's invasive. It's her medical privacy. Then she can sign a release. If she's really pregnant, she should want prenatal care anyway. This solves both problems." Alex stared at me. "Who are you?" "This isn't the mother I know. My mother was kind, caring. Your mother was a doormat," I said quietly. "And she's learning not to be. Julia was right about you. You're bitter and mean and you hate seeing anyone else happy." Each word was designed to hurt. They did, but I didn't let it show. "I'm going to call Dr. Morrison's office right now," I said. "She's been my doctor for 20 years. She'll see Julia tomorrow morning at 9. It's a 5-minute appointment, just a blood test to confirm pregnancy. If Julia doesn't show up, I'll have my answer. And if she does, if she proves she's pregnant, will you let us stay then?" I looked at my son, really looked at him. He'd lost more weight. His clothes were dirty. He needed a shave. There were dark circles under his eyes that went beyond just 1 or 2 nights of bad sleep. He looked desperate, and desperate people did desperate things. "If she's pregnant, we'll discuss options," I said carefully. "But Alex, even if she is, that doesn't automatically mean you can move back here. There are other ways to help. We don't want your money. We want a place to live." My answer is still no, but I will help you find resources. Shelters, assistance programs, temporary housing. I'll even pay for a few nights in a motel while you look for something permanent. But you cannot live here. Because you hate Julia. Because I need to protect myself. From your debts, from your chaos, from your lies. I softened my voice. "Alex, I love you. But I can't save you. You have to save yourself." He turned and walked away without another word. I called Dr. Morrison's office and made the appointment. The receptionist said they'd call Julia directly to confirm. Then I sat down and waited. The next morning at 8:45, my phone rang. Dr. Morrison's office. "Mrs. Hartford, this is Jenny from Dr. Morrison's office. We tried to reach Julia Hartford for her 9 a.m. appointment, but her phone is disconnected. We also tried the alternate number on file your son's cell, but he didn't answer." "I see," I said. "Thank you for trying. Should we keep the appointment slot open?" I looked at the clock. 8:47. If Julia was coming, she should be on her way. No, I said. You can give it to someone else. At 9:15, I called Alex's number. It went straight to voicemail. I texted, Julia missed the appointment. I have my answer. No response. At 10 a.m., Rose came over with groceries. She'd noticed my pantry was nearly empty after Alex and Julia had raided it. Any word? She asked. They didn't show up for the doctor's appointment, and now they won't answer their phones. Rose set down the grocery bags and hugged me. I'm sorry, Gabby. Don't be. At least now I know for sure. What are you going to do? I'm going to move forward with the legal stuff. The trespass notice, the eviction paperwork. I'm done playing games. But my heart ached, because even though I knew they'd lied, part of me had hoped I was wrong. Part of me had wanted to be a grandmother. We were putting away groceries when someone started pounding on my door. Not knocking. Pounding. I opened it to find Julia, her hair wild, her makeup running. You want proof? She screamed. You want proof? She threw something at me. It hit my chest and fell to the floor. A pregnancy test. A physical test, the kind you buy at a drugstore. 2 pink lines. Positive. There, Julia was crying now, her whole body shaking. Are you happy? Is this what you wanted to humiliate me? I bent down and picked up the test. It was warm, fresh. I looked at Julia, really looked at her. Her eyes were red, but not just from crying. They were bloodshot with dark circles underneath. Her hands were shaking. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Julia, I said quietly, when did you take this test? This morning, right before I came here because you demanded proof. So you weren't pregnant yesterday when Alex gave me that note. She froze. She faltered. I did a test weeks ago. I knew then. But you didn't go to the doctor. I don't need a doctor to tell me I'm pregnant. Actually, you do, because home tests can be wrong. They can be false positives. They can be... This one isn't wrong. Rose appeared beside me. She looked at the test, then at Julia. Honey, Rose said gently, when was your last period? Julia's face crumpled. I don't know. I don't keep track. But I'm late. I'm definitely late. How late? I don't know. A few weeks, maybe? Maybe, I said. Julia, if you're 8 weeks pregnant like Alex said in his note, you would know exactly when your last period was. I'm bad with dates. She stopped, looking between us. Why are you interrogating me? Why can't you just be happy that you're going to be a grandmother? Because I don't think you're pregnant, I said quietly. I think you're desperate, and desperate people lie. Julia's face went white. That's crazy. Why would I lie about being pregnant to manipulate me into letting you stay here? I said. To make me feel guilty, to give you leverage. You're insane. But her voice was shaking. The wine, Rose said suddenly. Gabby told me you were drinking wine in her house. Pregnant women don't drink. I didn't know I was pregnant then. You just said you knew weeks ago, I pointed out. Julia looked trapped. Her eyes darted between us, looking for an escape. I want you to take a test, I said. Right now, in my bathroom. A test that I provide that I watch you take. That's invasive. You can't make me do that. You're right, I can't. But if you refuse, I'm going to assume this test, I held up the one she'd thrown at me, is fake. Bought online or borrowed from someone else or from weeks ago before you started drinking again. Alex! Julia screamed toward the street. Alex, get in here! Alex appeared at the end of my driveway. He'd been waiting in the car. He walked up slowly, his hands in his pockets, not meeting my eyes. Tell her, Julia demanded. Tell your mother I'm pregnant. Alex looked at the ground. Alex, Julia's voice rose. Tell her. Alex's voice was barely a whisper. I can't. The world seemed to stop. Julia turned to him, her face twisted with rage and betrayal. I can't tell her you're pregnant, Alex said, still looking at the ground. Because you're not. Julia made a sound like a wounded animal. I could be, she screamed. I'm late. The test could be positive. We don't know for sure. The test you threw at my mother, Alex said quietly. You bought it from someone on Craigslist. I saw the messages on your phone. You paid $50 for a positive pregnancy test from a woman who's actually pregnant. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Julia had bought a fake positive test. She'd planned this deception. I couldn't find words. You were going to lie about being pregnant to manipulate me. I had to. Julia was sobbing now, mascara running down her face. We have nowhere to go. No money, no options. What was I supposed to do? Not this, I shouted. Not lie about a baby, not manipulate me with something so sacred. Julia laughed through her tears. It's just a pregnancy. Women get pregnant every day. It's not some magical thing. Get off my property, I said, my voice shaking with rage. Both of you, now. Mom, Alex tried. Now. Wait, Alex said. Wait, there's more you need to know. Julia grabbed his arm. Alex, don't. He shook her off. No, I'm done. I'm done lying. He looked at me and I saw tears running down his face. The pregnancy wasn't Julia's idea, he said. It was mine. I stared at him. I told her to fake it. I said it was the only way you'd let us stay. I'm the one who found the positive test online. I'm the one who convinced her to go along with it. Alex, Julia whispered. What are you doing? I'm telling the truth. For once. He turned back to me. And that's not all. The gambling debt, it's not $15,000. It's $23,000. I didn't tell you the full amount because I was scared you'd never help us. Each word was another knife. And the job I lost, I didn't just get fired for performance issues. I got fired because I was caught gambling on company time, using the company computer. They threatened to sue me for misuse of company resources, but they agreed not to if I just left quietly. Stop, I whispered. Please stop. And the reason we really got evicted, he was crying openly now. We didn't just fall behind on rent. I stole money from our landlord. He left cash in his office and I took it to pay a gambling debt. He found out, called the cops. They were going to press charges, but he agreed not to if we just left immediately. Alex, Julia tried again. And the worst part, Alex looked directly at me now. The absolute worst part, when we moved into your house without telling you, when Julia suggested we just stay there, and you'd never know, I said yes immediately. I didn't hesitate. I didn't think about you at all. I just thought about how we'd finally have a free place to live. He sank down onto my porch steps, his head in his hands. And when Julia said we should wait for you to die so we could have the house, I didn't disagree. I let her say it, because part of me was thinking the same thing. The silence that followed was deafening. I looked at my son, this stranger wearing my son's face, and I felt something break inside me that could never be repaired. Get out, I said quietly. Mom, get out of my sight, both of you, and don't come back. Please just listen. I said get out. My voice cracked like a whip. Alex flinched. He stood up slowly, Julia beside him. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. So am I said. I'm sorry I failed you so completely that you turned into this. I'm sorry I loved you so much that I made you weak. I'm sorry I sacrificed so much that you learned to expect it instead of appreciate it. That's not fair. Fair. I laughed a bitter sound. You want to talk about fair? Get off my property before I call the police. They left. I watched them walk to their car, watched them drive away. And then I went inside, closed the door, locked it, and slid down to the floor. Rose sat beside me and held me while I cried. 2 days later, a court officer came to my door. Mrs. Hartford, I have the documents you requested. He handed me a folder. Inside was an official eviction notice and a trespass order. These have been filed with the court, he explained. If Alex Hartford or Julia Bennett Hartford attempt to enter your property without your express permission, they can be arrested for criminal trespass. Thank you, I said quietly. I'm also authorized to deliver copies to them. Do you have their current address? I shook my head. They're living in their car, last I knew. The officer frowned. That complicates things, but we'll do our best to locate them. In the meantime, these are legally binding. You're protected. After he left, I looked at the documents for a long time. Legal protection from my own son. How had it come to this? That evening, Marcus Thompson called. Mrs. Hartford, I wanted you to know the collection agencies have been notified that Alex doesn't live at your address. We've also filed paperwork with the county establishing that he has no legal claim to your property. You should be protected from any liens or legal action related to his debts. Thank you, I said. There's one more thing. Alex called my office this afternoon. My heart jumped. What did he say? He wanted to know if there was any way to contest the trespass order. I told him no. I also advised him that if he continues to harass you, you could file for a restraining order. Did he say anything else? He asked me to tell you he's in a treatment program for gambling addiction. He said he wants you to know he's trying to get help. I closed my eyes. Is he really? Or is that another lie? I don't know, Mrs. Hartford, but I thought you should know he called. After we hung up, I sat in my quiet house and thought about Alex as a little boy. I remembered teaching him to ride a bike in the driveway. The way he'd scraped his knee and I'd kissed it better. The way he'd hugged me so tight and said, "You're the best mom in the whole world." Where had that little boy gone? When had he become this stranger who lied and stole and manipulated? Or had he always been the... Life slowly returned to normal. I cleaned my house from top to bottom, erasing every trace of Alex and Julia. I replaced the stained bedsheets, scrubbed the water rings from the coffee table, organized my pantry. I planted new hydrangeas. Young plants, small and fragile, but with the potential to grow strong. Rose came over for tea every Tuesday, just like before. I saw Patricia Santos once a month to review my estate plan and make sure everything was protected. She'd helped me set up a trust, establish a healthcare directive, and ensure that when I died, my house would go where I wanted it to charity, not to Alex. It hurt to write him out of my will, but it was necessary. I couldn't trust him not to gamble away everything I'd worked for. The collection calls stopped after the first month. The legal notifications worked. I changed my locks, installed a doorbell camera, created boundaries that should have existed all along. I learned to live with the sadness, because that's what it was, not anger anymore, not betrayal, just sadness. A deep, bone-aching sadness for what could have been and never would be. I didn't hear from Alex at all during those 3 months. Part of me was grateful. Part of me missed him with an intensity that sometimes took my breath away. I threw myself into my routine. I volunteered at the library twice a week. I joined Rose's book club. I started painting, something I'd always wanted to try but never had time for. I was learning to be Gabriella again. Not just mom. Not just the woman who worked herself to death for everyone else. Just Gabriella. A 74-year-old woman with a whole life ahead of her. And then 3 months and 4 days after I'd kicked them out, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello, Mom," Alex's voice. Quiet. Hesitant. I closed my eyes. "Hello, Alex. Can I talk to you just for a minute?" "I'm listening." "I'm in a motel in Oregon," Alex said. "I got a job. Just part-time warehouse work, but it's something. I'm going to Gamblers Anonymous meetings 3 times a week. I haven't placed a bet in 92 days. I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say. "Julia left me," he continued. "About 6 weeks ago. She met someone else. A guy with money with a stable job. Someone who could give her the life she wanted." "I'm sorry," I said, and I meant it. "Don't be. She was right to leave. I was dragging her down. Just like I dragged you down." "Alex, no, let me finish, please." He took a shaky breath. "Mom, I need you to know something. Everything I told you that day on your porch, about stealing from the landlord, about gambling at work, about planning to wait for you to die. All of it was true, but there's something else." He paused. "The worst thing I did wasn't any of that. The worst thing was taking you for granted. My whole life you were just there, working, sacrificing, giving. And I never appreciated it. I never understood how hard you worked, how much you gave up, how much you loved me." His voice cracked. "I thought you owed me that. I thought it was your job as a mom. I didn't realize it was a gift. A gift I never deserved and never appreciated." Tears were running down my face now. "When you kicked me out, I was so angry. I thought you were cruel, heartless. But Mom, you were right. You were right about everything. I needed to hit rock bottom. I needed to lose everything Julia, my home, my pride, before I could start building myself back up." "Are you," I asked softly, "building yourself back up?" "I'm trying. I'm really, really trying. The GA meetings help. My sponsor is tough on me, doesn't let me make excuses. And the job, it's hard work, physical work. But it feels good. Honest." "I'm glad," I said. "Mom, I'm not calling to ask if I can come back. I know I can't. I know I destroyed that. I'm calling because He took another shaky breath. Because I want you to know I'm sorry, and not the kind of sorry that means I'm sorry I got caught, or I'm sorry this is inconvenient for me. I mean, I'm sorry for hurting you, for using you, for being the son you didn't raise me to be. I couldn't speak past the lump in my throat. I don't expect you to forgive me, Alex said. I don't even think you should. But I needed you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better. Alex, I finally managed. Do you have enough money for food, for rent? I'm okay. It's tight, but I'm managing. Please don't worry about me. I'm your mother. I'll always worry. He laughed, a sound mixed with tears. I know, and I don't deserve that either. We sat in silence for a moment. Can I call you again sometime? He asked. Not to ask for anything, just to let you know I'm okay. I thought about it, really thought about it. Part of me wanted to say no, to protect myself from any more hurt. But another part, the part that was still his mother, would always be his mother, wanted to keep this tiny thread of connection. Once a month, I said. You can call once a month to let me know you're okay. That's more than I deserve. Yes, I agreed. It is. Thank you, Mom, for everything, even for kicking me out, especially for that. Take care of yourself, Alex. You too, Mom. I love you. I love you too, I whispered. After I hung up, I sat in my kitchen for a long time. Rose found me there an hour later. Gabby, I saw your car was still here. Are you okay? I looked up at her, and I realized something surprising. I was okay. Not happy, not healed, but okay. Alex called, I said. He's in treatment. He has a job. He's trying. How do you feel about that? I searched for the right word. Hopeful. Cautiously hopeful. Rose sat down beside me. That's a good place to be. Is it I still don't trust him? I don't know if I ever will again. That's okay, too. Trust has to be earned. He broke it. He has to rebuild it. That takes time. Years, maybe. Maybe. Or maybe forever. And that's okay, too, Gabby. You're allowed to protect yourself. You're allowed to set boundaries. You're allowed to say, I love you, but I don't trust you, and that's not changing anytime soon. I nodded slowly. I did the right thing, didn't I? Kicking him out. Yes, Rose said firmly. You absolutely did. You saved yourself. And maybe, just maybe, you saved him too. My hydrangeas bloomed that spring. Not the old ones, those were gone forever. But the new ones I'd planted came back strong, their blue and purple flowers bright against the green leaves. It felt like a sign, like proof that dead things could make room for new growth. I'd settled into a new routine. Library volunteering had turned into a regular gig. I helped seniors learn to use computers on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. It felt good to be needed for something other than money or sacrifice. The book club Rose had invited me to became my favorite part of the week. 6 women, all over 65, all with their own stories of difficult children, ungrateful relatives, hard-won independence. We were survivors, every one of us. I'd even started dating. Well, sort of. A man named Robert from the book club had asked me to coffee, and I'd said yes. We'd been on 3 dates so far. Nothing serious, but it was nice. Nice to feel seen, valued, appreciated. Nice to remember I was more than just someone's mother. Alex called once a month like clockwork. First Sunday of each month, 2 p.m. The conversations were brief. He'd tell me about work, he'd been promoted to shift supervisor, about his meetings, 6 months sober from gambling, about his life. He'd moved into a small apartment, was taking community college classes online. I'd tell him about my flowers, about the library, about Rose. We didn't talk about what happened. We didn't talk about Julia, they were officially divorced now. We didn't talk about forgiveness or reconciliation. We just talked, like friendly acquaintances, like people rebuilding something from scratch. It wasn't what I'd hoped for when I first held him as a baby, but it was something, and something was better than nothing. Patricia Santos had become not just my lawyer, but my friend. She'd helped me set up a scholarship fund when I died. My house would be sold, and the money would go to help single mothers buy their first homes. Your legacy, Patricia had said. Not just a house, but the dream of home ownership for women who need it most. I liked that. The idea that my life's work would continue helping others after I was gone. That my sacrifice wouldn't end with me. One Sunday, 6 months and 2 weeks after Alex first called, my phone rang at the usual time. But the conversation was different. "Mom," Alex said, "I have something to tell you, and I want you to know I'm not asking for anything. I want you to know." My heart started beating faster. "Okay." "I'm getting married." I sat down. "Married. Her name is Sarah. She's a counselor at the GA meetings. We've been dating for 3 months. I know that's fast, but Mom, she's different. She's kind and honest, and she doesn't put up with my excuses. She makes me want to be better." "Alex, 3 months is very fast." "I know. We're not rushing it. The wedding isn't until next year. I wanted to tell you early, and I wanted to ask." He paused. "I'm not asking you to come. I know that's too much. But I wanted you to know, because even though we're not close anymore, you're still my mother. And I wanted you to know. I thought about it. About a wedding I wouldn't attend. About a woman I'd never meet. About a future I wouldn't be part of. It hurt, but it was also okay. I'm happy for you," I said, and I meant it. "I hope she makes you happy, Alex. I hope you make her happy too." "Thank you." His voice was thick with emotion. "That means more than you know. Will you send me a photo after the wedding? Really?" "Yes, I'd like that." After we hung up, I went out to my garden and sat among my hydrangeas. The sun was warm on my face. A butterfly landed on one of the purple blooms. And I realized something. I was happy. Not the wild, ecstatic happiness of youth, but the quiet, deep happiness of someone who had fought for themselves and won. Someone who had drawn boundaries and enforced them. Someone who had chosen self-respect over guilt. I'd lost my son in a way. The relationship we'd had was gone forever, but I'd found myself, and that I realized was worth everything. It was Thanksgiving. I was hosting dinner, just Rose and her daughter, Emma Rose's son David, and his family, and Robert. Small, simple, but full of love. I'd cooked for days. Turkey stuffing, cranberry sauce, 3 kinds of pie. My kitchen smelled like home. The doorbell rang at 2 p.m. right on time. I opened it to find Rose holding a bottle of wine and Emma carrying a casserole dish. "Happy Thanksgiving, Gabby." Rose hugged me tight. The house filled with people, with laughter, with warmth. David's children, Rose's grandchildren, played in my backyard. I watched them through the window, running through the grass near my hydrangeas. "You're smiling," Robert said, coming to stand beside me. "I am," I agreed. "Thinking about anything in particular, just how different this year is from last year." Last Thanksgiving, I'd been alone. Alex had promised to visit but canceled at the last minute. I'd eaten a frozen dinner and watched TV. This year, my house was full of life. "Different good or different bad?" Robert asked. "Different good," I said, and I meant it. During dinner, my phone buzzed. A text message from Alex. "Happy Thanksgiving, Mom. Thinking of you today. Hope you're well." I looked at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back, "Happy Thanksgiving to you too. Take care of yourself." Short, polite, boundaried, but not cold, not cruel, just appropriate. I set my phone down and looked around my table. Rose was laughing at something David said. Emma was helping the youngest grandchild cut his turkey. Robert was deep in conversation with David's wife about gardening. This was my family now, not by blood, but by choice, the family I'd built for myself. After dinner, after everyone had left, after I'd cleaned the kitchen and put away the leftovers, I stood on my back porch and looked at my garden. My hydrangeas were dormant now, preparing for winter, but their roots were strong and they'd bloom again in spring, just like me. I'd lost so much this past year. My relationship with my son, my illusions about who he was, my naive belief that love was enough to fix anything. But I'd gained something too. I'd gained myself back, my peace, my boundaries, my dignity. My house was truly mine again. Not a place where I waited for my son to need me. Not a place I was afraid to enjoy because I felt guilty for having what others didn't. Just my house, my sanctuary, my home. I went inside, locked the door, and turned off the lights. And as I climbed into my bed in my room in my house, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Complete peace. I'd done it. I'd chosen myself. And I'd survived. More than survived. I'd thrived. And that, I thought as I drifted off to sleep, was the greatest victory of all.